Heidi ho, and welcome to Skip-O-Matic's Model Mania. I have decided that I have stalled projects that I need to start cleaning up and getting done. Probably about a dozen of them, and they clutter up the bench, they clutter up the counter, and my staging area for builds. So it's time to get some of them done. So before I start a new one, I'm going to finish this one. This is all the parts for it. Actually, I started this twice. So what it is this is going to be what's called Professor Fate's rocket car. It is from this movie called The Great Race. This is a pretty funny movie. I think it's one of the all-time great comedies. It was made in 1965. It's a spoof about an actual race that was run in 1908 from Paris, France, from New York to Paris, France. They traveled across the United States. It was supposed to go up through Alaska, across the Bering Straits, down to Japan and into Russia, or through Russia. If you look it up, the true story is almost as hilarious as the spoof is. Only the true story definitely is a lot more serious consequences sometimes. But the true story is even a good story. But yeah, they drove from New York to Paris. They had to go through Russia and Eastern Europe and all that, and it took them quite a while. So this is the spoof about that. It's a funny movie. It's with Jack Lemmon, Tony Curtis, Natalie Wood, and Peter Falk is in it also. Professor Fate, that's Jack Lemmon. He's kind of a nefarious, dastardly bad guy. He's always competing with Tony Curtis's character, the Great Leslie. And the Great Leslie, he's the good guy. He's everything. He's always dressed in white, and it's a typical kind of cartoonish thing. But it's a funny movie. If you have never seen this, you really should see this. I think a lot of the younger folks probably have never even heard of this movie. If you're an old fossil like me, most likely you know what this is. It's a great movie. I bought this to put in my collection. If you can find it and rent it, or if it's on YouTube somewhere, I don't know. I bought it because I wanted it in my collection of what I consider are great comedies. It's one you don't get to see very often on anywhere. But anyway, so Professor Fate builds a rocket car. This is in the first part of the movie. He's trying to break the Great Leslie's speed record. And so him and his little sidekick, Max, who's played by Peter Falk, they build this rocket car. It runs on the train tracks. And, of course, being, criminal-minded, and they're not, they're kind of like rocket surgeons. They're not too bright. All they think about is how fast they're going to make it go, and apparently they never thought about how to stop it. And it gets kind of funny. It's kind of a Roadrunner Coyote moment. So anyway, I found this 3D print file, and all the parts are 3D printed. I had originally printed even the rails and the railroad ties. I rescaled the print to 75% because I was trying to make it 125 scale. So I printed all these out. I knew these are all pretty close, other than the ties I knew had to be too long. And after looking at what I'm going to use now, they really, and I was going to cut them down anyway, it looks like they need to be about 3/8 to a ½ inch shorter. And these would have worked. I was going to have to glue them down on a base, mount the rails, and then I was going to, get model railroad gravel stuff or whatever, and, make a railroad bed. But I decided, I figured out I had something that would work even better, but I didn't want to steal it from the kit. And trying to find another kit, at least cost effectively, just didn't seem to work out is going to work at about the same as what I ended up doing. So I took the parts out of that kit for the railroad base. I'll put those off to the side. And that's the previous videos I just posted up just before I started making this video about making silicone molds and casting resin parts. So I made a mold to make this railroad base, and even though there is some air and stuff in it, it's usable because these are just like creosote timbers, and railroad bed base is usually like crushed granite or something like that. So it's not perfect, so if there's any little air bubbles or whatever, by the time I paint and finish this and detail it with paint, you're not going to see all that. I still have to drill the alignment pins. And then the rails. These didn't turn out too awful bad. Looks like there was a little bit of air in the resin. So I don't know if I'm going to use these. They got to be cleaned up yet, but I don't know if I'm going to use these. I may mix up some more resin, and I've got the mold so I can make more of these. And if I gotta do one or two another pours, they don't take much resin. I'll see if maybe I can get a better pair of rails. I could make these work though. So this is going to be the base that the rocket car sits on, just mostly for display. So this is the rocket car itself right here. I originally started this out and I printed. I wasn't sure exactly how much I was going to like this, so I printed it all on standard print, and it turned out okay. The problem was I was going to end up having to do a lot of sanding, a lot of filling with glazing putty, because I wanted it a lot smoother. And it was going to be a lot of work, so I decided that I'd go ahead and be a little more patient, and I reprinted the whole thing on high quality print. Now the biggest difference is not only is it a better print, it takes a lot longer to do a high quality print, but you can see the difference here. I'll put this up here, especially, so we're going to compare this part. I already glued these three pieces together, and then I decided to reprint it all better. But you can see on this cone, this front part, you can see how kind of raggedy it looks. Even on this, you can see, if you can see all that there or not. There's like, it's thin. And then I reprinted it on high quality, and you can see this is a lot nicer. A lot of it's because in a 3D print you have striations, and you can see the difference in the striations. This is a pretty crappy print compared to this one. So that's why I reprinted everything. Problem is, say just this front piece, this one and this one. On the standard print, that piece ended up being, I wrote down all the times, that front part, where is it? Top, it's labeled the top. That was 1 hour and 10 minutes to print this in standard mode. But in high quality, it was 3 hours and 45 minutes. So it's a big difference in print time. So you have to be really patient if you want it really good. Same difference. This is the difference in the quality of the cones that go on the front. This still has some problems, but nothing like this one. This one looks like it has an STD or something. So yeah, that one's not much. Trying to fill all that and smooth that all out was going to be a headache. This one's much better. It's got a little bit problem with it, but not real bad. And with the what's called the truck, which is where the wheels and everything go, you can see, maybe you can see the difference on those two. This one is much nicer than this one. This one's, see, it's got a lot more striation to it. They're deeper, where this one is much smoother. Trying to get the camera to catch that. This is all this stuff is white, and it doesn't show. It's hard to see it, especially under the bright lights. So you can definitely see the total difference in the quality of those. So that's what I did. I reprinted everything. Ended up the total print time in standard mode was like 14 hours and 15 minutes. The print time for it in high quality ended up being almost 28 hours. It was about 28 hours, so it's twice as much time. A lot of things you start printing it, like this this one here, the truck, ended up being 8 hours and 45 minutes just for this part. And this part here, the main body, was 9 hours and 15 minutes to print this. And it still looks like crap where the dash is, because this prints on the bed like that. So you got gravity working on you here. And I even tried it doing supports. You know, that was a bunch of other time that it cost me, and it still wouldn't turn out right here like it needed to. So what I did is I took this part, and after I had this one, and I liked everything but that, because the rest of it does look pretty good. It's all pretty nice and smooth. It's got that's the other thing, that when it prints the holes for stuff that have to go in it later and everything. So when it prints, it's sitting flat on the print bed. So to get that and fight the gravity, I went and flipped the file 180 degrees and set it like that in the program. And then what I did is I modified the file temporarily. I cut it right across. So all I printed was that portion of it. And as you can see, I now have a pretty nice looking dash part. So that's going to be a little bit of work, because what I'm going to do, you can see there, it's the bottom of the dash right there, it's a nice flat guideline I can use. So I'm going to take my saw, which I've got a saw like this, and you just got to be patient with it and slow. And I'm going to cut it right through there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this top portion off from both of these, and then I'm going to re-glue it. So the line will be cut right through there, and I'll just cut this piece out, glue in the new one, and all there should be is a really fine line there that I can sand out and finish out, and then I'll have a perfect dash in this, and that'll work out. But that's part of model building, especially this kind of model building. You have to be able to do that kind of stuff. I have some metal axles. These are actually just some brass rod, so that'll stick the wheels. I gotta kind of clean those holes out, and then the wheels go on this like there and there, and then it sits on the railroad tracks. The body, here I'll show you with this one, because that was all glued together. The body sits on the truck like that, and there's like steps to get up, and there's some other stuff. There's like a steam pot thing there, and there's the nozzles that go on the rocket tubes. So you got rocket tubes, which this part here ended up taking about 3 hours to print this part in high quality. And then the nozzles don't really take that long at all. You're talking maybe, I don't know, 20 minutes to print nine of these nozzles, and they just glue on the ends of each of those tubes. So this will be like the rocket propulsion. And then there's this metal pot that'll sit up here, and I gotta take some really thin gauge wire and make some tubes and make some grab handles. So that'll be part of all building the model. So these, I don't know, probably throw all that away. I don't know. This is everything we're going to use right here to build. And what I'm going to try, after I was printing all this, while I was printing, I was actually looking up stuff. And I came across this out of the way. I found this stuff, and it's XTC 3D. It's by Smooth On Corporation, or Smooth On. It's another company that does, you know, silicone mold materials and casting resins. This is like a self-leveling polyurethane coating. You brush it on, you do it in multiple coats. It self-levels, and it's made just for smoothing out 3D printed parts. I looked it up, the reviews on it. They're good, they're bad. It's hard to decide just from people reviewing it. Everyone seems to have their own separate, totally opposite end of the spectrum opinions. I figured I'd go ahead and buy it, try it, and I'll make up my own mind. I'm going to use it on this, or I'm going to try it on this. If it works out, I'll really be ecstatic. I'm going to try and read the instructions and follow them right. Sometimes I have a problem following the instructions exactly right. I don't know why. I get my own thoughts, I guess. Or I get in a hurry. So I'm going to do that. I'm not going to really include that in this build. I may make another video separate about this stuff. Kind of a review and how it worked for me. So I will be shooting some footage of doing some of that smoothing with this. What you'll see on here will just be whatever the finished product is. And that's pretty much it. It'll get all painted up. I found some pictures of the actual prop that was used in the movie, and I've also got the movie. So I can always pop the movie in and get some of the details of it from that. And that's going to be it. So I'm going to start getting together. I got to glue some of these parts together. I got to fix my dash. That's the front part that'll glue on. The nozzles glue on the back like that. So I got to get that all glued up. Then I can get this smoothed out so I can paint it. The nose cone goes on that. So there it is. That's basically most of it right there. And it's ready to go speeding down some railroad somewhere. So we'll get that all built. And struts, some braces. These are supposed to slide through some of these slots here and there. And these are supposed to be wood plank steps to climb up into it. And that's pretty much it, other than just a lot of work now putting it together. So I guess what I'll do is I'll get that glued up and try out some of that XTC 3D. And once I get all that smoothed out and get it glued together, and then we'll get it painted up and see how this thing turns out. I think it's going to be cool, especially with this base I've got here. I think that's going to make a world of difference in how it looks. This is actually from one of the Polar Lights Back to the Future models for the very last DeLorean, where they make it run on the train tracks and it ends up getting destroyed by the train in the very end. So that's from that kit. And that's it. So let me get busy, and when I come back, hopefully I'll have something done on this. Okay, so I'm back for a few minutes. I went ahead and cut my dash to get my dash fixed on this before I glue everything together. And with this saw, and I use that to keep from cutting my base, or my mat. I cut this off. See how it's all nasty, gnarly looking? So I can throw that away. And then this was the other piece that I print, remember, to get the good dash. I cut that off from that in the exact same spot I cut from here. And now that should fit right on there fairly nice and give me a nice new looking dashboard. So what I'm going to do now, then we'll take this front part, the nose, or part of the nose, and instead of gluing this on first, I'm going to glue this on, lining it up with the main body, so I know that I got a nice fit, you know, all around here and everything on the bottom. So I'm going to get all this fitting real nice, get this glued where it needs to be, and once that's glued and set, then I'm going to take the dash part and I'm going to set it down in here, and it looks like it's going to fit pretty nice already. But by doing that, by gluing the front part on first, that'll give me a good reference for positioning this. So if there's any little bit of tweaking I need to do to this, maybe set it down lower or whatever, I can do it and match it up to that. It looks like it's going to be pretty nice already. But that's how I'm going to glue it together, and then once that'll all be, and then all I got to do is clean up where my cut edge will be, where it's glued together. It's kind of hard to hold this with. I need 2 more hands, or at least 1 more hand. See, shouldn't be too bad of a seam there, I don't think. If you can see that with my big thumbs in the way. Alright, so that's what I'm going to do next, get that glued together, and then I can probably start to do some of that filling and everything on it. So, off to the next step. Okay, so we're back. We've moved along actually a couple of steps. As I was talking before, I was gluing this piece of dash that I'd cut out to put in here. And you see that this is all glued together. I went ahead and put the rocket tubes on. So this is all glued together. And I also went ahead and started using this XTC 3D, coating the parts to help smooth out the striations. And it actually works pretty good. I might have to do a video just solely on that. I'm kind of playing with it on this. I don't know. It's the first time I've used it. So I'm trying to figure it out exactly how it's going to work. But I'm kind of liking how it does it. This is the second coat on this. I put 1 coat on and sanded it all, and put a second coat on, and it's pretty good. It's just, you just have to sand out like your strokes and work, because it's self-leveling, and this is not, it's hard to set this any one way for it to level properly, so you kind of have to sand out where it kind of builds up and runs a little bit. And I may have put on the coats maybe just a little bit heavy. I mean, you can put it on really heavy. You're not supposed to. It says thin coats, but this is about as thin as I could get it to, and still make it work somewhat. This is looking pretty good. It's just, I mean, it's pretty smooth. Where I glued this together, you can see where I put it together. Right there's the one side. This is the best fitting side. There's no, you can see the gap. You cannot feel it right now. So by the time that sands out, that's going to be good. This side, it's good on this end, but down on this end, you can sort of feel it right here. So I don't know if I'll put some more on there or if I'll use some putty on that. I may putty it and then put just a little bit here and then sand of this coating on there and then sand this out. This is turning out pretty nice. I'm liking this. So really this probably just needs to be sanded out, and then whatever I got to do with that, and this will be ready for primer. This one part is ready. I've already done the second coat and sanded it. You can tell when you're sanding this because it's crystal clear, but as you sand it, it goes dull. So you can tell your low spots by the shiny parts. And you know, there's going to be some in the corners. I just scuffing those with the edges of the sandpaper. But all this here is pretty nice. You can still see the striations, but you can't feel them at all. It's nice and smooth. So I'm pretty much liking this right now. So this is ready. I could be a little more buggy about it and probably do another coat and really work at it. But you know, I'm actually really happy with it right now. It's going to work out really nice. especially once it's painted. I think you're not really going to notice anything at all, especially with primer. Primer's going to help fill it a little bit again. So that's that. I got the nose cone. I fixed the whirly boogers from the end there where I didn't want to. I used a little putty first, shaped it, and this is only one coat of the XTC. So I'll sand this out and see how it is. I might have a couple spots here. They're not going to be that bad. I don't know if I'm going to have to do a second coat of XTC on this or not. Right now it's looking like it might sand out pretty good already. I've just got it temporarily glued to this. I had it glued on the part, and my aggressive sanding, I popped it loose. So I temporarily glued it on this old one just to hold it. So when I get that done, I'll pop that back off and re-glue it back onto this. But that's where we're at. So I'm going to finish getting these sanded out, and that one spot there, fix whatever it needs. Glue the nozzle tips on, and I'm not sure if I'm going to glue this whole thing together before I paint it and paint it as one whole thing, or if I'll paint this and this separate. I'm not sure yet. The wheels, they'll be painted separate, so I'm still figuring that out. That's where I'm at. So let me get back at it. Maybe when I come back I'll have it all together. Alright, so we're back. You can see I've moved along quite a bit on this. I went ahead, put this all together, glued it to the base, put the steps, slid those in, put the struts on, finished the tips on the rocket tubes, and went ahead and primed it out. Before I primed it, I drilled some little holes, and that's for these pieces of wire that I made. There's some grab handles that go right there, and I bent those up. You see those are pretty small, and they just go in those little holes. And this is the pressure pot or whatever it is that goes up here, and it's got some tubes and things that come out of it. This gets painted like a brass or gold. The wire will probably be left the color it is, and they go up in there. There's little holes that'll all set down in. The wire is 20 gauge. It's like jeweler's wire. Just a little roll of that. I think I picked this up at Hobby Lobby over in the jewelry area. I got several different sizes of this. This is the largest one I have. I don't know if they got it bigger than that. And this is 20 gauge. It seemed to be about right for scale. So that's for that. That'll go up in the top. You'll see that when it's all done. And then I primed everything. Here's the body all primed. You can see it's not looking too bad. I'm pretty happy with it. You know, I could get a little more buggy with it and really go to town on it. I'll probably sand it out a little bit. Got a run right there. Just a quick scuff on it, and then I'm going to have to mask it off and paint the red scallops that go there and the little flames or whatever it was they had on the back here. So that'll be the next thing I do. Paint the seat red, paint the dash, and I've got the base. It's all primed. It's ready to be detail painted. So that's that. I went ahead and cast another set of rails because the first ones I wasn't too happy with. Seemed to be a lot of little air bubbles in it and voids. So I've cast another set. This set turned out a lot better. Just a few little flaws on the very ends, but I can just trim these off like the 1/16 of an inch or whatever just to square them off nice, and those are going to work pretty nice. And so I got to get these primed so I can paint those. And the wheels, I've got them all primed for final paint. So that's pretty much where we're at. I've been playing around with making my own decals. These aren't the decals, these are some test prints. They're about the right size. Now I gotta just figure out how to get them out to the printer on a sheet of decal paper. It's the first time I'm doing that. A bunch of firsts for this build. I want to see how that works out. It'll be towards the end. So that's where we're at right now. I'm going to get back to trying to get this thing finished up and pretty soon we're going to have a rocket car. To keep from boring everybody with just all the little intricacies of painting everything, we're going to use a little bit of video editing sorcery and jump ahead on it. So let's see, what was that incantation? My father be your father. No, that wasn't it. Oh, here it is. My father be your father, Domino's. Presto Painto! There it is. Everything's pretty much done painted. The base is just over the black primer. I used some metallic silvers and grays and a gray and some navy blue. Throw a little bit of dry brush in for a little bit of a granite ambiance to it. And so I used 3 metallic grays, a silver sterling, galvanized tin, and charcoal gray, and then just a regular gray. These are all craft paints. Then for the wood, I used my darkest brown espresso for the base part, and then used a couple lighter browns to dry brush the high spots. And then this was clear coated with a matte clear, and that's it. The base is painted. And then the rails were painted with some of the metallic grays first, and then I used some of my browns and reddish browns for some rust color, and then I used the galvanized tin to do the tops, and the insides of the rails where the wheel flanges ride for wear and tear, and I clear coated these with Rust-Oleum 2X semi-gloss clear, and that's it for the base. So the base just needs to have the rails permanently attached. They'll be like that. And that's pretty much the base. I'll put some glue and press those down, and that will be the base for the rocket car to ride on. So that's that. The wheels are just the black primer, which all the primer I used, the black primer, is this just Bright Touch general purpose primer. It makes a nice satin black, kind of like a hot rod black. Sprays real nice. So this is everything, all the primer, everything was primed in this. And I used the galvanized tin again to do the wheel lugs and where the wear spots on the surface and the flanges. And I just used black craft paint for this pot. The pictures I had of the 3D model that the one guy made, he painted that like a gold color, copper color or whatever, a gold color. And after looking at photos of the actual movie prop, it was black like the rest of it, so I painted mine black and just left the brass colored rod. And then these were all cleared, like I said, with the semi-gloss clear. Those are done. And there's that. I used this craft paint, metallic gold, pure gold, to paint the rocket nozzles, which, by the way, I put those on backwards after I did it, and I was like, oops, and then I got looking at it and said, I like it better that way. And mostly I like it better because I don't have to redo it again. The dash is the silver metallic, silver sterling metallic. And I used the gold again for the ring on the bezel of that gauge or whatever it is, and I just dropped a little bit of white inside of that. You can see that. And the seat, I use the silver again on these tread plates. The seat is just bright red. And do, I don't know, like 3 coats of that, because it's kind of transparent over the black. And then I masked everything off. I kind of had to make my own little maskings, and it was a little time consuming to make these scallops and these little scallopy flames. Once I got it all taped off, I cleared over the tape to try and seal the edges of the tape, to try and stop bleeding under the tape. And I just used some clear acrylic. I used the Treehouse matte clear, and then I spray painted the red with Rust-Oleum 2X, and this is apple red, and that's the red. This I haven't clear coated yet. I have some decals that I made, and I also have to do, there's some pinstriping on the original that goes here and around a skull that goes right there. I think I'm going to try and do that with a Molotov gold pen, or I think I got another gold pen. I'm going to try and do that with a pen. I have one picture shows this is a faded red, but in the movie shot, the movie picture, that stripe is gold, so I'm going to go with gold. So all that's left for this is I printed out these decals. I printed out 4 sets. I haven't done this before, so I'm not sure how this is going to work. This is inkjet printer. I printed it out, coated it with some matte clear, and now I just got to cut them out and put them on, like this one here. That one goes right there. This one goes here, and then these are the teeth that go underneath there, and then I'll probably just hand paint the eyes. Once I get all that on, get that done, hopefully I won't mess it up before I go through all those. Once that's all done, I'll clear coat this and finish putting everything together, and it should be done. There's my axles, and there's the grab handles and the other piece that goes with that pressure pot that goes up there. That's pretty much it. So let me see about getting those decals on there and see how they turn out, and get it clear coated, and then we'll come back and show you the finished rocket car. And here it is, Professor Fate's rocket car. It's all done. The last couple things I had to do on it, the decals and the pinstriping. The decals, meh. I can live with them for now. This was a first time for me, so it was definitely an experiment. I'm not 100% happy with them, but I can see where I could possibly improve. Some things I learned with them. One, I'm not sure what the paper I got, if it's the best or the worst or anything. It's just some white decal paper I ordered. It went down pretty good at first. The print is mostly my printer. I'm sure it's a economy $100 printer. It's more for just color printing of documents. It doesn't have any photo quality or no adjustments to it. So I know it's a low quality print. The other thing is the decal itself seems just a little bit thicker than what kind of decals you get in the kit. I could be wrong. It just seemed that way to me. Without using them both on one model and being able to actually see a side-by-side comparison, it's hard to say. The other issue with them, and a lot of it could be my fault again, I probably got a little too aggressive when I was putting my clear on. These large decals, especially right here, these ones, started to try and curl up on me. That one there, and the one on the other side tried to do it here on the corner. And you know, it's not a super big deal. I'm not going to lose sleep over it. The other thing was the pinstripe. I ended up doing in red. I thought it was gold. The picture, the movie picture I was going off of was a still from the movie. And I think the angle and the lighting made it look gold. I went and popped the DVD in and got to the scene here with the rocket car. And looking at it in the movie, that pinstripe is red. So I went with the red. The red, I used a acrylic paint pen. And they snap on pretty good. These actually work pretty good. I like these. I'm probably going to start trying to use these a little more. I ordered these from Amazon, and it was a pack of 18 colors, and this was like a next day shipping. Got it the next day. Ordered them on Sunday, had them Monday. So I'm going to try these out some. That'll work if you're interested. I got these off Amazon. There's other brands. I do like the way they kind of work, so I'm going to be trying these out more. I used washi, real thin, narrow washi tape, and taped the edges to try and give me a guide. And that way, you know, if you got the edge of the tape, you just run along the edge of the tape with the pen, and it kind of keeps me steady. Otherwise, if I try to totally freehand that, I freehanded the corners, but to try and totally freehand that whole thing, especially at my age now, excuse me, it's a little hard to do for me to stay that steady. The scallop flames, the scallops up here on the front, I had, especially on this wasn't bad on the back, but on the front here, I had left the tape on for actually a few days, and I had to push it back down when I got to this, and I think that was the biggest problem up front here. I have some bleed through under the tape, even though I did some clear coat to try and seal the edges. I still got some bleed through. Yeah, I'm not going to worry about it. The other thing was the seat. After I clear coated this whole thing, I used the 2X semi-gloss clear. It's a little, I don't know, for semi-gloss. It has toned down a lot over the last few days. I painted this clear, I think about 4 or 5 days ago, and it's toning down a little bit. It just seems to me to be a little more glossy than semi-gloss, but over time it may change. The seat then was also very shiny, so to bring that back down flat, more of a flat to look like a leather or fabric, I used this. It's in the craft paints at Hobby Lobby. I'm sure Walmart and Michaels has this. Duraclear Soft Touch Varnish by Americana Deco Art. This I even wrote on the lid so I could remember it does dry flat. It's a nice clear. I put that one coat of that over the seat, and it toned it back down and made it look more like a leather or a vinyl. And let's see, what else was there. The eyes, I had to paint the eyes, so that's just white craft paint and the same red that I used for the seat for the pupils. I just freehanded those. Those weren't too hard to do, and I think that's about it. And other than that, what you're looking at is what it is. I'm mostly happy with it. It's going to go on the shelf. Probably put it in one of my little acrylic cases. It goes with my oddities that I try to make every now and then. I like the movie. I thought this was cool, especially when I came across the 3D print file. So there it is. Hope you like following along with it. If you like my channel, you like this, hit subscribe if you haven't already. Like it, leave comments. I like seeing comments. I try to get back to everybody on comments. And I have a Facebook page, Skip-O-Matic's Model Mania. Check that out if you get a chance, if you're on Facebook. I post different things up there all the time. It's things about the modeling community, or some humor things, joke things. And that's it. There it is. Feast your eyes. So in the meantime, if you're building models, keep building, stay busy, keep those little hands busy, and come back when you can. Until the next time, catch you later.